Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I rise today in support of the Medical Research Future Fund Bill 2015. This is a bill that provides opportunity for all Australians. This is a bill that looks to help the future health of all Australians and to celebrate the inventiveness and the ingenuity of Australian researchers. For too long, regions like Western Sydney have been forgotten about. Regions like Western Sydney have been underestimated. But, Deputy Speaker, together with this bill of a $20 billion medical research fund and the infrastructure plan, we will see coming together a Western Sydney innovative corridor, an innovation corridor stretching from the Hawkesbury Agri Park, the Northwest Growth Sector, Sydney IQ that forms part of the medical research, health and education precinct in Lindsay within my own electorate. The Sydney IQ Park will have 6,000 jobs in health and education and research in this exact region. The Science Park in Luddenham that, Deputy Speaker, I have spoken about many times in this House. 12,200 jobs will be in that vicinity and 10,000 research positions. This is an exciting project, a very, very exciting project. And yes, there will be agribusiness in this facility, but this facility looks at all sorts of health and education projects, from computing, engineering, mathematics, geotechnical, water and environmental engineering research projects, medicine, medical devices and allied health expertise, an Institute for Society and Culture, economies research, and of course a School of Social Science and Psychology, the Urban Research Centre and related projects. That's just UWS's contribution to what is a project, the Sydney Science Park, by the E.J. Cooper Group, that them themselves, over and above the value of the real estate, will be investing $2.5 billion to create 12,000 jobs in science, education and medical research. That is exciting news. That is wonderful news. And, Deputy Speaker, when we look right across this region, if I continue, we have Oran Park, the fastest growing city centre in Australia, the Sydney University Camden campus. Now, the Sydney University Camden campus also looks at more projects in exactly this space. And then we get down to the Integrated Health Hub. Now, the Integrated Health Hub is one in Campbelltown, and I'm sure the member for Macarthur will touch on this later. But a lot of these projects, Deputy Speaker, with the University of Western Sydney, where they have signed a memorandum of understanding with the Beijing University of Chinese Medicine, that these projects in these sites, together with great universities, Sydney Uni and the University of Western Sydney, will start looking at ways of providing the clinical trials for Chinese medicines. Deputy Speaker, this is groundbreaking research that's taking place in Western Sydney and starting to form. Those opposite want to cut it off at the knees. They don't want to see these sorts of things sprout. They don't want to see the infrastructure investment to create the jobs, to create the research, to create future industries for our country. Deputy Speaker, for too long, the very future of this country's $1 billion clinical research industry has been put at risk through funding uncertainties and many programs operating under a year-by-year funding model. Through the last decade, we have seen the number of clinical trials being conducted in Australia actually fall. In 2013, Professor Brendan Crabb of the Association of Australian Medical Research Institutes said the falling success rates on medical research grants will eventually reach breaking point and start seriously discouraging young researchers from sticking to their careers. In fact, for many working in the research sphere, Plan Bs are essential, other jobs just in case. And to quote Dr. Tim Nielsen, PhD and biochemist and media commentator, Australian scientists are some of them are truly remarkable individuals. Their tireless work pushes back the frontiers of knowledge daily to eradicate disease and eliminate human suffering worldwide. Every time one quits to become an accountant, we potentially lose a cure for AIDS or a cure for cancer. Deputy Speaker, I am proud be part of a government that understands these concerns and is prepared to turn almost a decade of neglect around by giving certainty to this sector. This government is delivering a medical research fund worth $20 billion by 2019-2020. This is truly a game changer for our country. In my electorate of Lindsay, the University of Sydney, a university now ranked in the top 100 universities under 50 years of age. This is a smart, a young and innovative institution focused on outcomes, striving for research excellence and being awarded internationally for their work. The standard of research from the University of Western Sydney is continuing to lift higher and higher, and now is higher than the average leading institutions right around the world. It makes sense for other smart global universities, research institutions and organisations to partner with a fine institution like the University of Western Sydney. As a result, the university has now lifted the lid and is looking to the future of what projects they could engage in, and some of the projects they have underway today, Deputy Speaker, include the work being conducted by Professor Anne-Marie Hennessy, the Dean of the UWS School of Medicine. She is currently working on groundbreaking research that seeks to understand the basis of dangerously high blood pressure, known as preeclampsia, which is seen in some pregnant women, or perhaps work currently undertaken in the Ingham Institute by Professor Ian Gospel, University Professor in Infectious Diseases and Microbiology. He currently is seeking to develop the means of protecting our hospitals from the highly resistant bacteria MRSA, known as the golden staph. Professor Gospel's research has already shown this bacteria survives in biofilms on stainless steel surfaces even after extensive cleaning. Destroying these biofilms is the only way to get rid of hospitals and their dangerous bacteria. Then there's the work of Professor Philippa Hay, a university professor in the mental health space. Professor Hay is currently exploring the mental health issues associated with eating disorders, evaluating treatments for anorexia and overweight individuals with bulimia or other binge eating disorders. And perhaps the School of Medicine, which is currently running a large-scale, multi-site clinical trial led by Professor Jenny Wraith. She is seeking to understand and prevent ear disease among Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. Deputy Speaker, this government is focused on the best and brightest Australian medical researchers, and for them to remain at the forefront of developing treatments and cures that improve the lives of all Australians and millions and perhaps billions of people right around the world. This government wants to provide the sector with clarity and certainty and encourage people to stay within it. In the words of the University of Western Sydney's Vice-Chancellor, Professor Barney Glover, the Future Fund will enable the University of Western Sydney and our peer institutions to considerably upscale our research capability and collaboration in health and medically aligned fields of direct benefit to the region and further afield. The fund will act as a much-needed complement to the university's large-scale investments in health and medical teaching and research infrastructure from our Campbelltown and Westmead campuses, with additional research being added to locations like Penrith in the Lindsay electorate. This bill, Deputy Speaker, sends precisely the right message to investors and the global community. It sends the right message to supporters and participants in medical research, both domestically and internationally. It demonstrates Australia's commitment to being a leading contributor to the clinical area of research and innovations for decades to come. Professor Barney Glover, the Vice-Chancellor of University, has been a trailblazer in many ways in driving the university forward. This government is absolutely focused on delivering this bill, in delivering the $20 billion for the Medical Research Fund. This legislation will create the biggest endowment fund of its kind in the world. This fund will help to ensure Australia continues to advance world-leading medical research projects, attain first-class researchers and ultimately deliver improved health and medical outcomes for all Australians. This opportunity, Deputy Speaker, lies in the hands of this parliament. This bill, if you support it, will support an initial contribution of $1 billion from the uncommitted balance of Health and Hospitals Fund. Then further savings will see money allocated to build up the capital target level of $20 billion projected for 2019-20. This financial year will see the first $10 million in additional medical research funding to be distributed. That will reach to over $40 million as estimated for distribution over the next 4 years. But most importantly, this funding is in addition to the government's existing budget for direct medical research of around $3.4 billion over the next 4 years. On the management side, this fund will be invested by and managed by the Future Fund Board of Guardians, which has a proven track record in managing investment portfolios on behalf of the government and maximising returns over the long term. For determining grant recipients, the government will separately establish an expert advisory board to provide advice on medical research strategies and priorities to inform how annual distributions from the Medical Research Fund are to be spent. Deputy Speaker, this is a well-thought-through policy that delivers and grows on our commitment to the medical research sector. This is a vital investment. This is an investment that is needed for today, for the medicines that will cure the illnesses of tomorrow. This is not only an investment in the sector, this is an investment in Australia. This is an investment in future health. This is an investment in our country and all of humankind. Deputy Speaker, I am proud to stand in support of this bill. I'm proud to stand in support of a bill that will help make my part of Australia, my part of Western Sydney, a wonderful region for well into the future, and I'm proud to commend this bill to the House.